Welcome back, everyone. We'll get started in just about 5 minutes. Thanks for tuning in. And let's get some tunes. What's it going to be today? I got just a thing. No tunes. Okay. Well, if you guys don't have any good jams to listen to, then we might as well just dive right into it. We'll have to figure that out. I'm not sure. I'm not sure why that was, but we were listening to OPP. Great song. Awesome song. Trying to set the stage, trying to set the energy a little bit for this. We a couple guesses. Contracted growth streak, it says, I think it's Eminem. I love it. I love it. That's so good. Oh, all right, guys. Hope you guys have had a great week. I'm getting a lot of questions. A lot of people want to know. They want to know about this Google thing where they basically are requiring that a browser is using JavaScript. It has to have JavaScript enabled in order to see search results. So the first question that I would ask is, what type of browsers don't have JavaScript enabled that are still currently on the internet? I want to have a look at that. Let's actually look at what browsers could people be using before this update happened, of course. What could they have been using? And so here's what we got. We got the BlackBerry 8800. This fine device, beautiful device right here. Do you think people are still browsing the internet on the BlackBerry 8800? I don't even know if that's the term or how they call it. No one's actually using this browser to surf the internet. It was just a rhetorical question. What about the Game Boy? Game Boy Color. I used to actually have one of these Game Boy Colors back in the day. And I think it had like a micro browser inside it. It didn't have JavaScript enabled. And so just imagine who at home is still surfing the internet on these archaic devices. The answer, of course, again, is a rhetorical question, is nobody. No one is actually using these devices to surf the internet, of course. The only people trying to scrape Google without having browsers, without actually having JavaScript enabled in the browser are, of course, SEO tools, right? People trying to scrape Google for fun and for profit. And Google making this change, I think, is really important because it sets a milestone. It's them sending a very clear signal and a message to the industry. All of their competitors, Perplexity, ChatGPT, these services, if you want to use them, you can't actually use browser automation and even JavaScript in the browser to access them because they've locked it down. If you want to use them, they want you to use their API. But Google is kind of an interesting case because Google, they function as a social good company, at least historically they have. A big part of their positioning was that anyone, anywhere in the world can use Google to do information lookups, and that's part of the ethos of their platform. So what changed? What shifted? Why the shift? Google has had a bot problem for a long, long, long time. And it's one that they don't talk about publicly with their investors. They don't want people to really be aware of the issue because the bot issue affects them and us in multiple ways. Before I say more about that, I want to show you more evidence of bots on Google. I don't know that I need to do this because I think you guys believe me at this point, but here's an interesting case. What is this? This is data. So right now I'm signed out from some of my accounts. I'm traveling. I'm in Austin, Texas. But I want you guys to see this. So I pulled it up from my other computer. This is programmatic search activity and behavior that you can see inside Google Search Console. So what this is it is people searching for site : www.linkgraph.com followed by some other query. And you should be asking yourselves, who the heck is searching for this every single day? In the last, what's the time period here? 3 months, to almost 3,000 searches for this query. Who is performing these searches? Is it a human? Is someone actually going to Google and typing this to try to figure out what our pages are that are indexed on Google? Of course, it's not a person. Okay, of course. This is a bot. There are multiple people going into Google trying to extract this data. One, of course, are SEO tools. SEO tools like Search Atlas, like SEMrush, like Ahrefs, we're all doing this. But the big difference in the way that we approach this is that we don't want to scrape Google in the least technologically sophisticated way. We want to scrape Google in a way that is future-proof and is resilient. And so from day one, when we built our platform, we were scraping Google using browsers, using real, actual browsers that have their own browser-side rendering. There are many different ways of detecting bots. And for a long time, I actually asked myself, Google knows that these people who are coming and crawling them, they knew that they were bots. Why are they allowing the bots to crawl them? What is the reason that they're just allowing it to happen? Well, one of the things that Google cared about is they want their data to be accessible to the world. They kind of took it pretty far. They allowed their data to be extracted so that really even people who are scraping it to analyze its information, they had to allow them to do that to a certain extent because of their positioning. If they were preventing people from being able to extract the data inside their walled garden, that is a bad look from a PR perspective. And yet, they made the change nonetheless. They made this change, I think, for a couple of very, very obvious reasons. The first one is that the amount of compute resources that Google has to dedicate to bots crawling their data is significant. I think that something like 10% of the search activity taking place on the search engine is robots. It's people harvesting data. It's people looking for rankings. It's also bots that are taking actions inside the Google search ecosystem. And they're doing that because some of them are trying to manipulate rankings. Some of them are trying to just gain insights. There's a lot of different types of people that are doing this. But the thing that's important about this change is that Google has made a move and they've said, we are now making it harder than before for people to access our data. And what that means is that they're shifting their positioning a little bit in an important way, where they're no longer just trying to be out there as a social good company. They're looking after their data, they're looking after themselves. Because when they implemented the AI overviews, what they were doing is they were running the search results through large language models, which are actually not inconsequentially cheap. To restrict that compute activity, what they did is they required JavaScript to be enabled in the browser in order to access the AI overviews, because they do not want to have to do that type of data processing for bots. Otherwise, the cost to them to use Gemini to analyze the search results, to summarize it for a bot, it's not worth it. They don't want those costs to balloon and get out of control. And so that was one of the big reasons why, because they want to put more compute resources behind the AI overviews. They want to power them up with higher quality AI models, higher quality outputs, and invest more resources into high quality AI overviews. And they cannot do that if they're being gutted from all sides from robots extracting that data out. So what they're essentially doing is they're saying, if you want this data from us, you can still get it, but you have to be crawling us from a real browser. And we know this quite well because we have a keyword database of 5 billion keywords that we refresh, that we have to update. So we have to pull on a monthly basis a significant amount of keyword data out of Google. One of the things that we know about that is that they restrict the amount of queries that a given IP address is able to process. If you, for example, right now, if you go and you try to run a lot of queries on Google, let's say more than, I believe the number is around 25 to 30, that's where we found it in our testing, that if you go above that threshold, that you will hit a CAPTCHA. Google does it at that point because they think this is an anomalously high amount of queries that are hitting us from the same IP address. In order to verify that this is a real person, we're going to hit him with a CAPTCHA. One of the things we also know about that CAPTCHA is that if you fail the CAPTCHA check, that is a black mark against that IP address range. Not just the IP, but the IP's subnet. So all activity that comes from that IP address is now demoted. Not completely demoted, but it is partially demoted. If that IP subnet continues to have a history of anomalous behavior, bot-like behavior, then eventually, the moment that IP address comes to Google, it's going to hit a CAPTCHA right away. And so this is Google moving in the direction of saying, we're restricting access to a search engine. We're going to make it harder to access the information inside here. And if you want to get it, you have to really level up. You have to increase the level of sophistication in the way that you're crawling them. And so what this has done is it's essentially raised the bar for the entire SEO industry and paid search industry as well, because it's not just SEO people. It's also the Google Ads guys that are trying to get the data about who's running ads for certain keywords and also what are the CPCs for those keywords. It's very interesting. So on a daily basis, it's estimated about 8.5 billion keywords are searched on a daily basis. That's a lot of keyword search volume that's going through Google's engine on a daily basis. And all of those searches now have to actually come from a bona fide browser that is rendering the page. You can't just be a headless browser. They need to see that the user is legitimate. Now, what's interesting about this is that Other platforms such as Amazon, Amazon is a very challenging scrape target because they don't want people to be mining the product review data, the pricing data. They don't want people to be extracting that information from them. Same is true of the flight search engines. The flight search engines don't want price discovery to happen, and they know that they're being crawled. There are even companies out there that offer solutions that you can install into the browser as Google, for example, install to verify the authenticity of the person who's coming to view their data. So a lot of companies already exist to solve this problem, and it was kind of weird why Google for so long just was so permissive with how people were accessing their data. Though, even though they were permissive about who could access the data, that doesn't mean that they weren't aware that they were bots. To prove it to you, if you tried to access their information, right, from certain IP ranges, you could say it's a US based IP, but if you're in a data center or if you're buying IP ranges from other companies out there that claim that sort of have an IP that's been assigned as a US IP, but it's a low quality IP, it's not residential, it has no real US American fingerprint data along with it, those IPs are actually treated as suspect by Google, and they won't show the ad data to those IPs. How do I know that? Because I want to scrape them and I want to get the ad data, right? So I can show it to you guys in Search Atlas. So this was actually a problem we had to figure out. How do we solve? And it was very interesting as we were extracting this information from Google, learning about in what context do they share certain data in the search engine results. And in many contexts, what we see is that they're the most restrictive about the ads. They don't want to present ads to absolutely everyone. They want to restrict the presence of those ads. And it's a really interesting approach that they take. We also know that the click activity data that happens on the search engine, they're also treating that activity differently depending on the origin of where it comes from. I don't want to say too much more than that, but we know that that is also something that is part of how Google filters clicks. There are patents that they've also published about this that are quite interesting that we've also studied and shared. And I'm expecting that this year and in the years to come, because of the value of the data that they have, okay? The data that Google has for any keyword, by being able to pull the search results for that keyword, you are able to build a knowledge graph of very useful information, factuality around any keyword. That data for SEO is gold. There are many people that want that data because as we're doing our content engineering, we want to be able to know what are the documents that Google thinks are the most relevant for this keyword. We want to be able to access that information because we know it's important to them, and then take that data, extract the factuality out of it, and use it as a RAG, retrieval augmented generation RAG. Use that RAG data in our content generation pipelines. And so what I believe has happened is the amount of people that are using this data and scraping this data from Google has continued to increase and increase and increase. And now what they're trying to do is they're trying to tamp it down, and they're forcing you that if you really want this data, you got to work harder to get it. You got to be willing to pay more to get it, because now you have to do browser emulation. You got to do a real browser to go and crawl them and scrape them. And then you have to also use IPs. You have to use proxies to get the data. So the cost just went up significantly. I think it makes sense for them to do this. I'm actually glad that they did it because it protects the search results. It also dissuades bad actors who are trying to do some manipulation inside the search results. It shows them that Google's not afraid to make changes and protect their platform, as they should, because they want to make sure they're able to provide the best results. Just imagine if you're Google and you have so much fraudulent activity coming through all these bots searching for keywords. How do you really understand what users are searching for? Just imagine having all this kind of robotic, malicious, negative data inside your database. It makes a mess, and it makes it really hard for them to plan and to understand the user behavior of what people are looking for. And there have been many people who have kind of taken advantage of those algorithms and exposed the fallibility of those algorithms in a very public way, or they're manipulating the autocomplete suggestions. We've seen this before. I can't say so much about it, but some of those Google bombs, some of those things that people have done to really exploit the search engine, now they've prompted this action from Google. And so I think it's great. I'm really happy about it because for us, we're willing to go to whatever length we have to go to get the data. It's no problem for us that we're going to do that. That's a part of the reason we exist, is so we can understand search and shine new light on it. And so we're willing to do the browser emulation and whatever else it takes for us to be able to continue to manage and get that data. And so did it increase our cost? Yes, it absolutely did. Is that okay? Yeah, it's fine. Because ultimately the cost for us to manage and get that data is not so significant that it makes this type of data processing impossible. And obviously, right, we anticipated that this was a likely scenario, that it was going to happen. So we planned for it. It was nice not having to do all the browser stuff before, but we didn't build our house expecting that that loophole would exist for a long time. Did you guys know a lot of people used to scrape Google by using Facebook? They would use the Facebook crawler to hit Google, and for a long time, Google would just let the Facebook crawler come and access their data because they assumed Facebook is coming to crawl us because they're trying to promote discovery of some kind of social information inside the social graph. And so, yeah, we want to make sure the Google search results will show up on Facebook. We don't want to block their bot. And then people took advantage of that, right? And they exploited it to get as much data as they could. And then Google figured this out. They saw the traffic spike and then they blocked it, as they should have done. So a lot of those loopholes that existed are getting patched. And now if you want to access that type of data, you have to have a more sophisticated approach to it. I'm going to check the chat for some questions. Some people, Press Check Marketing asks about privacy-focused browser plugins to block third-party JavaScript. Those plugins have been around for a long time. They're kind of, the good thing about it is that when those plugins were released, a lot of the publishers were concerned that that it was going to negatively impact their ability to serve ad units to people. But the thing is, those plugins are not widely adopted, right? There's not massive adoption for those plugins. There are certain browsers like Brave, which does that automatically. Even Brave is not so widely adopted that it hasn't really been an issue for the industry. And I think what you'll see is if you take that JavaScript blocking to a very high extent, you're not going to be able to use Google search. And there's going to be kind of a backpedaling that you're going to have to do to enable that type of functionality. And really, when you think about it, executing JavaScript in the browser is the most common thing on the internet. Ever since the era of like Flash dying, JavaScript is how we do complicated browser side customer experiences. And so it's here to stay. And you really can't disable browser side JavaScript. That's just how the internet runs, and will always run. Deepak, nice to have you here. Welcome, Deepak from Michigan. Thanks for being here. We got Dale from Australia, Urban Cowboy. Welcome, Dale. How's it going down under? V12, good day to you too, my friend. V12, I think it's 2025. I mean, I think you're at V13 by now for sure, because we've done enough of these. I know you're on that next level. Will this impact your current scraping in JavaScript with auto? No, it does not. So the only thing that this really impacts is the way that we go and get the data from Google. So it has made that process more computationally expensive for us. However, it has no impact on auto, because auto is a solution. It actually lives on your website and it manipulates the page for other people, including bots like Google. And Google is always going to execute JavaScript in the browser The reason that they have to execute JavaScript in the browser is that most modern websites have some form of on-page JavaScript-driven DOM manipulation. So, for example, an accordion module, when you click the button, it expands. When you click it again, it collapses. That simple piece of user interface technology is powered by JavaScript. Google, they know that they have to execute JavaScript in the browser so that they can create those kind of experiences and they can actually see the web the way that it's supposed to look. Also, guess what? Salesforce, they're a huge, huge company. The Salesforce Cloud Experience Platform, whatever it's called, if you don't have JavaScript enabled, you can't even see any of those websites. They are all powered by JavaScript. And it's not just Salesforce, it's also the Adobe Cloud, some of the biggest, massive, most widely used enterprise websites. They're actually powered by JavaScript on the front end, on the client side. So if they turned off JavaScript, right, and now this is like 15 years that they've enabled this, if they were doing browser or internet crawling without having JavaScript enabled, there's so much information that they would miss out on. And in fact, they're doing the opposite. Google's actually putting more computational resources into understanding the content on websites. They have multiple phases in the way that they analyze web pages. The first phase is a very kind of a quick pass, just to see if the information on the page is worth consuming. If that information is junk and it's not quality, right, they push it off to the side and they don't process it, and it likely doesn't end up in the index. That's why one of the ways that we know about how they perceive our content quality is how quickly does that content index once it's fetched by Googlebot. If Google likes the content, if they think it's high quality content and it's not just some junk AI content, it'll be indexed and appear in search results very quickly. If the content is not good enough quality, sometimes it takes like 45 minutes after it's fetched by Googlebot before we see it appear in search results, if it appears at all. So that's very interesting. They have algorithms that are actually more computationally expensive, algorithms that extract the triples, that extract the some of the more latent language patterns and structures that require much more computation in order to understand them and derive them. Some of the aspects of building the knowledge graph of factuality around the queries and evaluating information gain is actually a more computationally expensive process that they do toward the end of the content indexing lifecycle. So if anything, Google, they actually want to spend more computational resources processing web pages versus less. Cool. What's up, Ryan? Good to see you, brother. Hope everything is well in Bali. Let's check for some other questions. Does Search Atlas use purely JavaScript to modify metadata on pages with auto? Will these changes impact how Google sees pages modified by JavaScript? So let's take that question apart. There's two questions there. The first part, do we only use JavaScript? Well, no, we don't only. We have a WordPress plugin, and we've actually prepared that WordPress plugin to bring the auto page modifications into the plugin. So we call this server-side rendering, SSR. So what that means is if your website you're modifying, you're trying to optimize as a WordPress site, well, install our plugin. It has a seamless integration with auto. And what it'll do is it'll take all the auto modifications inside your Search Atlas account and it'll bring them into the server, so that they get enabled into the page even before it's rendered. So this is actually a different way that we found to bring the changes into the website. From a time perspective, because we've optimized the auto pixels so much, you can actually see, if you check the network tab, the second time you load any page where the auto pixel has been enabled, you will see that our server will respond in like 2 milliseconds. That is like faster than it took you to even hear me snap my fingers. It is so fast. The way we were able to do that is by using CDNs, content delivery networks. What we're doing is we're taking all of the changes that we want to make to the website and we've hosted them in this content delivery network so that, number one, the time to access that data is milliseconds. There's no server behind it. There's actually no computation going on. We've already computed everything. So it's already been cached. And the amazing thing about that is a couple things. One, it gets the changes into the page faster, which is great. Number two, it ensures that users actually don't have to wait as long to actually visualize and see those changes impact the page. And then three, it actually also improves the performance of the server-side rendering because it means that the plugin is able to get the data from our auto backend way faster. And now I think when we looked at our DevOps data, something like 80% of the requests are hitting the cache. The other 20%, it's like the first time a page has been loaded. And so those come directly from the server and then they hit the cache the second time. So that's how that works. And these changes don't actually influence how Google is seeing the internet. These changes that have happened only affect how your browser has to appear and work in order to see their search results. And one thing that I mentioned in a couple of the Facebook threads that were about this is that for a long time, if you wanted to even get some data from Google, like the people also ask questions, if you wanted to actually get all the questions, you had to have JavaScript enabled. You had to keep being able to hit the button to hit the API to get more and more questions. So I don't know. The people who were impacted by this, I think they weren't even really trying to get the most useful data out of the search engine. So shame on them, honestly. We didn't even notice, to be honest. We found out, we saw the news cycle, we talked about it internally, we checked, but it didn't impact our systems in any way. Okay. Sweet. The mobile notary asks, do you flag for CAPTCHA on the wildfire services, i.e. will those backlinks impact our rankings negatively? Well, these are two completely different things. So Wildfire is a product that allows us to use our partner ecosystem of other companies that are running this technology and get backlinks from them. The CAPTCHA showing up on Google is a totally different phenomenon. That has to do with Google thinking that the person that's actually performing the queries on their search engine is not real. So they don't actually go together. And no, those backlinks will positively impact your rankings. Maybe you guys have seen that already. Okay, V12 asks about auto PPC. Yes, it is actually on the way. I think we're planning to release it for our first set of community members at the end of next week. So if you guys are interested in testing out auto PPC, just let me know, and we'll get you in there. Right now, we're actually, I'm really excited about it. The quality of the data, the quality of the results is really good. We're just going through all of the Q&A, not the Q&A, the QA process to make that product bulletproof and solid. One of the big shifts for us as a company now is we do a lot of QA before we release products. And so before any product can go to production, it's got to run through the product management and QA team. And that process can take between a week to 2 weeks to 3 weeks. So now we're doing extensive QA on all of our products before we launch them so that you guys can get a more stable platform and our customer success team can get fewer questions for support. Okay, awesome. Urban Cowboy says this is his personal account. He's using Search Atlas quite heavily under his business ID. I love to hear that. Awesome. Seeing results from using Search Atlas for 3 months. Awesome to hear that. That's great to hear. Eric says, howdy from the great state of Texas. You know, I'm in Texas right now. I'm in Austin. If you're anywhere in the area, shoot me a message. We're actually going out to dinner in about an hour and we'd love to have you. In less than 1 week, you said you saw major updates on your client sites. That is awesome. Yeah, we're seeing tons and tons of case studies like that now. We did an implementation and I'm going to do entirely like a whole video on this, but 152 website auto implementation case study. And it was unbelievable to see the consistency of how every single site in that case study, all of them got the pop. Every single one. It was incredible. And better rankings on mobile. And in fact, at the time of year when those businesses are usually, they're all dental offices, where those businesses are not usually as busy, these guys had the busiest month of their entire history. So super cool to see that type of validation and that it works, 100% it works. The next question that I see people always ask is, so how did you do it? Like, how did you get that case study? It's literally as simple, just go from the top to the bottom, right? Go through module after module and enable everything. Other thing I want to share about that is our data science team has been working very hard on the next generation of prompts inside Auto. Yes, the next level up. These new prompts, guys, are so good that I've never seen better title tags, better meta descriptions, better image alt text in my entire life. Like the new level up that they've been able to get to is so good that even I think even just for that module alone, the entire platform is so worth it. I'm going to do a video where I'm going to show you guys the updated outputs from the prompts so you guys can see it yourselves. We're rolling all of those updates out into the platform right now as we speak. And so probably by this time next week, the rollout will be completed and you'll see a whole new set of outputs inside Auto. And you'll have the ability to regenerate them if you need to. So stay tuned for that. Super excited. Awesome. Okay. Deepak, you're going to be in Austin for South by Southwest. Love to hear that. That's super cool. Hopefully, maybe I'll go there this year as well. One of the best tech and music conferences. Dabella asks, Manick, since these changes are uploaded to a CDN, does this mean that Auto improves or even resolves the load speed issues with the website? So the changes that we're making into the page are in the CDN, right? So that we can deliver modifications into the page super fast. However, it doesn't actually improve the website's performance issues intrinsically. So if the website has its own page load speed issues, or it's not on a strong CDN, we have not been able to impact that aspect of SEO yet. I will share though that we are working on a solution where we will give you guys a CDN that you can use for the brand, for the business. And so all the static assets will go through our CDN. And at that point, then we can accelerate the delivery and beat the performance load speeds of the current solution. So that's something that we're looking into right now. We call it faster than speed of light travel. It's just a funny thing internally, because for a long time when I talked about that exact use case, the team said there's no way we can go faster than the site's already going. And I was like, well, let's go faster than the speed of light. How do we do it? And of course, the trick is we have to put more of the site's processing on our own servers so we can take those static files, we can compress them, we can accelerate their delivery, we can do some tricks with the JavaScript that Cloudflare figured out that we can also implement as well. So we'll be doing some of that. Stay tuned. That's going to be more like Q2 stuff. We've got a bunch of other stuff that we're going to be launching in Q1 that is going to be big. I mean big. So if you got website projects where you're creating a lot of content for your clients, if you're trying to build out a lot of new landing pages, whether they're product pages, service pages, comparison pages, we're creating something new that is going to allow us to generate entire websites. We call these knowledge networks of information. Every single type of knowledge that website or that business needs to have on their website to communicate its value and its product to the world, we're essentially automating the construction of all of that content, the design of it, the briefing for it, and then the publishing of it. It is going to be a big launch and a game changer at that. So really excited for that to come as well. We've got a lot of big product innovations on deck. And of course, guys, 2025 is the era of the AI agent. This is going to be the year where we start to see these agents come out and impact this industry, impact the way that we as marketers work and operate on our teams. We have an entire AI agent framework coming for Search Atlas. I can share that with you. And it's going to be really cool. Instead of interacting with the platform inside the reports, inside the features and clicking directly into them, you can actually interact with an agent. You'll be able to talk to it and tell it what you want it to do, and it will take those actions for you and answer your questions. So it's going to be really cool. It's just kind of giving you guys some of the forward-looking stuff that is coming. It's going to be really big. I'm going to be really excited to roll this stuff out for you guys. But first, it's going to start next week with the Google Ads, Auto Google Ads launch. Also, I can tell you guys that we were able to get 4 new publishing partners for Signal Genesis. So 4 big news sites. Those news sites are number 1, Benzinga, number 2, newsramp.com, another great news site. We've got thestreet.com, which is a big financial website, very powerful domain, and Street Insider as well. In addition, we also have a financial news wire. So it's actually 5 new distribution points that you guys will be able to publish to through Signal Genesis. And the average cost point for each one of those networks is, I think, about $15. Depending on which Signal Genesis plan that you're on. If you're on the Elite Lifetime plan, it's a little cheaper. If you're on the standard plan, I think it's about like 15 to 20. So the pricing there is insane, and I'm excited. We are finishing the QA on that before we roll that out across the Search Atlas side of the platform. But I do believe those publishing points are already live inside Signal Genesis. I think the team pushed those live today. Okay. Awesome. Let's look at some other questions. So people sharing some wins with auto, love to see that. A couple people interested in PPC that want to be a part of the testing. That's great. Carlos asks about the Go High Level update. Stay tuned for that. We're working on an actual launch date with their team for when the actual integration will be going live. I think we got some communication about that with their team today. I think like our planned timing for that for the rollout's going to be February, March. So stay tuned. We'll keep you guys posted about that. Nice to see some love for the customer support team. Thank you for that, Jose. Good job. Great to see that. I hope you guys know how hard we work at that. We're always trying to level up the support experience you guys are getting. So we're always building up that team. And now we've got 2 new people who are running and managing the entire support team to give you guys the best possible experience. We're also tracking things like time to close bugs, time from when the issue is reported by a customer to how long it takes us to close it. Right now, the time is 12 days, and we're working on bringing that time down. For urgent bugs, it's like a day or 2. But for kind of the garden variety of bug, the time is about 12 days. So hopefully by end of Q1, we're going to want to bring that down to about 7 or 8 days. That's our goal. So we'll be working on that. Awesome. Fast Fix says, I run an SEO agency. How is this going to affect me in the short and the long term? Well, I'd say in the short term, it's not really going to impact you. It's impacting the tools that you're using, but it's not going to impact you in a direct way. In the long term, I think what we're seeing that Google is going to do with this JavaScript requirement is they're going to basically take their data infrastructure and then they're going to make search more egalitarian, more per their algorithm. And it's going to be harder to manipulate it. It's going to be harder to try to get one by them. Although remember that it's a cat and mouse game. So as they implement these restrictions, there's also other people that are on the other side of it that are working to get ahead and to get like one up on them. So unless you're doing anything that is, let's say, beyond the typical standard course of SEO, this is not going to impact you, and probably it's a good thing for you because it means that you can get results for clients the right way. And anyone who's in your space who's doing any of these kind of more illicit strategies that are not really encouraged, they're certainly not white hat strategies, they're going to have a harder time continuing to be successful with those approaches. Okay. And I think the reason why they're doing this is because they're relying on the behavioral data more. They're using that behavior data that they're getting. Any search engine, even if you had the exact same algorithm as Google and the same data set as Google, you don't have the same audience as Google. And the audience is actually one of the most important parts in the entire game because the audience is actually what gives them the feedback to tell them if this search result is good or it's not good. And so they are leaning more heavily on the user behavior signals than the other signals. That is something that they know that they need to focus on because in the age of infinite AI content, what are the signals that they know that they can trust, right, and rely upon? One of them is user behavior, the data signals they're getting from Chrome. And so I expect that we're going to see a greater emphasis on the Chrome signals that they're using. We're also going to see a return to the backlink signals as well. So high quality websites, real websites that have themselves real user behavior, real traffic, real activity on them. those links are going to be more powerful, I would say, versus less powerful in the future of how all this is going to come together and take place. Okay. Mobile Notary says, deep consult. Well, amazing. We do daily onboarding sessions, so I would recommend try to jump into one of those. And our team would be more than glad to help you. Also, reach out to support for anyone here that needs a little bit more help onboarding the platform, learning about the platform, and getting deeper into it, especially if you guys want to join one of our agency cohorts. Reach out to us, reach out to Fidan, post in the community group and say, hey, I want to join one of the cohorts. We're just starting the agency cohorts now. And what we're trying to do is basically build little communities within the Search Atlas group of agency owners that are working on solving similar problems so that they can work together and learn the platform together. In addition, we're putting a big focus on training. So we have a course. It was supposed to go live on Udemy. We're still waiting for Google to, not Google, Udemy to publish our course. So there is a course coming out that is actually a video course that goes through all the modules in Auto, and we unpack them one by one, explain how they work, and give you the best practices in terms of how you can use them. So that's a great new piece of collateral that we're giving you guys. We're also working with a course designer to take our curriculum and give it to you guys in a way that'll be accessible and easy to digest for your teams as well as for yourselves. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be coming in the next couple weeks or so, the overall course, okay? Are we taking any off-topic questions? I guess, sure. I don't know if anyone wants to hear my opinions about things outside of SEO, but we'll see. We'll see what the questions are. Awesome. Lower line says, we'd love to request the addition of a feature to remove resolved issues from the issues list. Yeah. Interesting one. I would love it if you guys have feature requests like that. We have a feature request board where you guys can put all of your features that you want to see us build and vote on them. So also take the time to review the other things people have asked for and vote them up if you like them. We look at that board to see what people want us to build. We try to keep a really close ear to what you guys are looking for. Obviously, internally, our axis is we're always looking to build new modules that are going to get you better results. So that's always something that we're doing internally all the time. But if you guys have other features beyond that you'd like to see in the platform, just let us know. And the team, we're pretty good about taking those suggestions and incorporating them into the platform. Okay. Someone asks, how long does it take after signing in to see results on Google? Well, so that's a great question. And in the case study, we have 152 websites. I actually presented this case study at the Agency Founders Intensive. And what's really interesting is that when the auto fixes are deployed on the website, you don't see the rankings improve right away. And actually, the reason for that has nothing to do with auto. It actually has to do with Google indexing the changes, because on a lot of these sites haven't seen a lot of updates or new content or modifications. And so Google's not crawling them very often. So what happens is we have to wait, and usually it takes a couple days. Google starts to notice all the new changes that have been deployed to the website, and then they pick up the crawl rate, and then they see all the changes, and then you see the rankings lift. So it's actually first a function of how fast is your site being crawled. After you deploy all the changes in auto to the website, now they're there, but Google has to crawl the site in order to see the changes. So depending on how big the site is, how much traffic it gets, its search demand, you'll see different indexing patterns. And actually inside auto, we added auto crawl monitoring. So now we're actually showing you real-time data from the crawlers that are hitting your website. So you can actually see when was the last time that Google came to crawl my site, or when was the last time Bing came to crawl my site, or even ChatGPT or Claude. So check out that data. It'll also give you like a hint. If you see that the crawling activity is picked up, there's a good chance you're about to see the traffic pop, or just wait a week or so. Usually the time between when the fixes are deployed and when we see the traffic pop come up is usually like 6-7 days. And then from there, you'll see the traffic increase, sustain itself. Okay. Awesome. Seeing some people looking forward to the Udemy course. Us as well, guys. Looking forward to giving you guys that course. You guys can get all this insight, all of our best practices from the platform. And it's going to be obviously a lot of work for us to keep that knowledge base up to date, but we're going to do it. Our goal this year in Q1 is to level up our training program. I think that's one of the requests that I see the most from people in the community is I would love to learn more about how this platform works, about how does Search Atlas affect the SEO of the website, and what else do I need to know about some of the more advanced aspects of SEO. And I want you guys all to learn it as much as we can teach it to you. There's so much to learn though. And so for us to build this course out, we're going module by module, and it's going to start with the practical video guides that you guys, I know you guys want about how to use the different tools. And then it's going to get into the theory where we're going to teach you the theory behind it. And I can say a lot of the theory that we're presenting is in contrast. It is actually against the grain of other theory that's being taught on like sites like Moz or even Ahrefs. Like we just don't agree with them about a lot of things because we know better. And we're actually practitioners of SEO. We actually do it. We're not just tool makers. We're not just software developers coding in our basement, building blind software that we think people want. We're here because we want to win the game. We want to actually get sites ranking better on Google. That's our North Star. So because we're actually trying to get results, it changes the way that we have understood SEO and that we're continuing to unpack it. And now not just SEO, also Google Ads. Some people know this, but before I even got into SEO, I was a media buyer on Google Ads, and I scaled my first startup to spend about $5 million a year in Google ad budget. We learned a lot of secrets along the way. And as we scaled that up, I then learned more about SEO. So it's funny that we started in SEO because I felt like there was a bigger impact that we could have, but we do know a lot of secrets about how to get campaigns to perform well on Google Ads. And we're going to be basically trying to give you guys the automation layer around that with auto Google Ads. Okay. Amazing. Eric, thanks for sharing that great story. So he says he's tested auto on 4 sites. Before he'd done some work, but he'd never crossed the first page. And after he deployed auto, he saw results within 2 days. I love to hear that. That's so good. Those are the kind of testimonials and case studies, guys, that just make our team just keep building more into this for you guys. I was talking to my friend Alec Newmeyer today about the research about how do we actually build auto. We didn't just like wake up one day and say, okay, we're going to build this product. We actually started in your shoes. We were an agency. The Link Graph agency now does over 10 million a year. And to get it to that point, we had to build a proper recipe of techniques and strategies that worked for our clients. And it was taking everything that we learned in your shoes, implementing SEO every single day as an agency to understand the truth of how the ranking system works. And that knowledge and those experiments that we did, the single variate tests, if you see my spreadsheet, there's like 70 different tests in that spreadsheet from the top to the bottom. And about 40% of them actually failed, right? They didn't work. And so even the ones that failed taught us something so we can get closer the next time to a successful experiment. And those successful experiments became auto. That is where it came from. It was the single variate testing that we had been doing for the last 5 years at our agency and the Search Atlas group. So that's where it comes from. And we're always doing new tests, by the way. That team, we have a budget of about $25,000 a month that we spend on the SEO experiments and testing team. What that team does is it tests, it retests, we come up with new theories, new hypotheses, and we're working on something that I call Petri dish SEO. What the heck is Petri dish SEO? You guys might be wondering, Manick's lost his mind, right? What are we in a chem lab? Petri dish SEO is this idea that we can build a Petri dish. A website is a Petri dish. And we can change one thing on that website. In fact, what we're doing is we can take a search, a keyword that doesn't exist, that no one else is searching for, and plug in search results that are targeting that fictitious keyword, where we control all the websites in the search result list. And then we can run experiments like, does linking out to external websites improve or hurt our rankings, right? And we can run it in a fully controlled environment. So we can learn more about what Google wants us to do. How do they want us to optimize our website? And instead of doing it in a theoretical capacity, we can do it in a practical way where we can say, we ran this test, we ran this experiment, and it taught us something. And we're taking that knowledge and we're applying it now to our holistic SEO automation platform, which is what Auto is. So that's how it all works, guys. Awesome. Guys, thank you so much. I'm not seeing any other questions here, specifically with regards to the topic today, which was the JavaScript rendering inside the browser. So we'll just wrap up here. And I think I just want to leave you guys with a couple questions, which is, these are some of the questions I think of our time, that with these AI agents consuming content on the internet, what are we okay with them doing and what are we not okay with them doing? Are we okay with them, these AI agents coming and scraping Google? Is Google okay with that? No, they're not really okay with that. Are we okay with them listening to music and like enjoying Spotify? Not really, right? Like, why shouldn't AI agent listen to music, right? But then are we okay with them getting data from Bing? Is Bing okay with sharing their search result data? Yeah, they are. They're willing to open up that data. But what about other sites? What about Amazon? What about Shopify? Right? My prediction for how we're going to see this play out, guys, is each business is going to build an AI agent, and that AI agent is going to express how that business is okay with doing business with other people. Okay. Amazon's going to say, yeah, we're okay with you buying our products. It's okay for you to buy something, but it's not okay for you to scrape our entire website. So we're not going to allow you to hit this AI agent infinitely. There's a fixed compute capacity you're going to get, but we are okay with you buying stuff from us. And so what we're going to see is every business that we're currently consuming data from, that we're using, is going to expose itself as an AI agent for the world. And the world will be able to get the data that they're looking for or interact with that business in a way of their choosing to solve a real user problem. But when it comes to going to their website and automating actions and kind of going rogue, that is a completely different path that I think they're going to block. People are not going to, sites like Expedia and Orbitz, they don't want you to do that, but they're okay with you booking a flight ticket. And so the way that you're going to do that is going to be through the AI agent that they create. And so what we'll see, and it's not going to be this year, because even as fast as it's moving, we don't have enough of the building blocks in play yet, that this is how we'll see like an AI agent economy form. But I expect that we're going to see this next year. This next year, we will actually be able to have personal assistants that will go to the AI agent on Orbitz or Expedia or Google Flights or whatever it is that you use, and your AI agent will go put in your flight order for you with their AI agent and take those actions on your behalf. So it's coming. So it'll be a very exciting time. I think it's going to speed a lot of things up. It's going to make life a lot better, a lot more interesting for us. But we will also see data access and data rights become more and more tamped down because of the power of that data and what it is able to do in the hands of infinite AI agents. So it's going to be really cool to watch it all play out. And as we see it happening, we'll call it like we see it, and we'll share with you guys what we're seeing from the front lines of our data processing as we scrape Google, as we scrape other search engines, as well as large language models. We'll keep sharing what we're seeing so you guys are aware and you guys are in the front row seat with us. Guys, thank you so much for being here. And I'm going to go and enjoy a nice dinner with some of my friends here in Austin. I hope you guys have a great evening, and I'll see you guys next week. Okay? Peace out.